7-14. 21 games in the season. That's what the Spurs record is right now. After 22 consecutive seasons of making the playoffs, it looks like the longest playoff streak in NBA history is going to come to an end. And guys, I have to admit, I was dead wrong on this one. I thought the Spurs were pretty much guaranteed to make the playoffs, that they were a lock for 50 plus wins this year. I mean, if you just look at the roster, top to bottom, it seemed like this team had the talent to be a surprise contender in the NBA this year, especially in the Western Conference, with as muddied as it is this year compared to previous years. There's no Golden State to worry about. Houston didn't seem like as big of a threat as they've been in the past. But boy, was I wrong. 21 games in the season, and this team looks lottery bound. Yes, on the bright side, they're only 2.5 games out of the 8th seed, but I mean, that's more a factor about the teams ahead of them. Nobody's been that great fighting for 8. 1 through 7, that was pretty locked down. And today I want to look at like some of the reasons for the complete and total failure of the Spurs. I will say at times the lineups have been quite dumbfounding. But here's some of the big issues. Right now, the Spurs just don't have very many good shooters. And the good shooters that they do have aren't very good defenders. And to top that off, the guys that they were counting on to be good defenders or good shooters aren't doing what they normally do. Take, for example, two of the classic cases for the Spurs this year, Bryn Forbes and Marco Bellinelli. Now, neither player is known for the defense, and quite frankly, most of their careers have been known for pretty atrocious defense, and that's been taken up to a whole nother level this year. Both players are in the bottom 50 for all NBA players in defense. And these two guys are supposed to be the floor spacers, the one that helps spread it out for DeMar DeRozan, DeJounte Murray, Derek White, LaMarcus Aldridge, so those guys can go to work and give them some spacing around the perimeter. For his career, Bryn Forbes is close to a 40% three-point shooter. This year, he's shooting 34.5% and playing horrible defense to boot. Marco Bellinelli, on the other hand, who was a case study of failure this year for the Spurs, horrible defender, arguably the worst defender in the league right now, especially in his ability to just get blown by on a daily basis. But he's in there for his three-point shooting. That's what he's always been known for. Great floor spacer, willing to stretch the defense, can hit a shot from basically anywhere. This year he's only, for his career, he's shooting 37.5% from the three-point line, and this year he's shooting 30.5%. And he's shooting even worse from the field at about 29%. Your two main floor spacers, outside of Patty Mills, are shooting 5 to 7% below their career averages from 3, and you've got some problems. And even so, it hasn't been the offense that's been an issue. I mean, this has been a top 10 offense for the Spurs. It's been their defense. Historically, we've always known the Spurs as one of the best defenses in the NBA. Throughout Pop's run, they've been a top 10 defense, a top 5 defense almost every single year, and been the top defense a number of years to boot. This year, they're bottom 5. And it doesn't help that they're playing guys like Marco Bellinelli and Bryn Forbes 20-plus minutes a night when they just can't hold their own on the defensive side. Now, Bryn works his butt off and tries on defense, but quite frankly, he doesn't have much of an impact other than negatively for his team, giving up points left and right. And what I think is most dumbfounding for me and many other Spurs fans is that the two best defensive players for the Spurs, Derek White and DeJounte Murray, have played something like 10 minutes total together the entire season. Now, a lot of that can be blamed on DeJounte Murray having his minutes restriction earlier in the year, having to play under 25 minutes a game per the coaching or the medical staff, and not being able to play in back-to-backs. But you have two all-world guard defenders and a perimeter-oriented day and age in the NBA, and you're not playing them together? Yeah, spacing is going to be an issue. DeJounte Murray has improved his jump shot, but it still looks like a huge work in progress. But shouldn't you at least give it a try? Put him on the floor and see what's going to happen? I mean, in limited minutes, they've looked decent together. It's not like a hand-in-glove fit, but, I mean, The Spurs of old would settle for subpar offense if they could just stop the other team. And especially in the day and age where you have Hardens and Lillards and CJ McCollums and Steph Currys of the world running rampant on the perimeter, the Luka Doncic's, you would think Pop would give him a chance. And yet he's deciding to stick with the Bryn Forbes and the Marco Bellinellis of the world, playing them significant minutes when they can't guard a fly. I don't understand. Pop is one of the greatest coaches in NBA history, but I will say he's left me dumbfounded by what he's done this year. Lonnie Walker has shown a lot of promise in the time he's played, and at least has the athleticism to be a good defender. And when he's played, has really competed on that end of the floor. And yet, consistently, Marco Bellinelli is getting the backup 3 minutes, and Lonnie Walker is often glued to the bench. Now, how does that make sense? This team needs his youthful athleticism. And look, if Marco's hitting his threes, you can kind of understand. He's a valuable floor spacer, but he's not. He's not shooting it well from the field. He's been a net negative and arguably the worst player in the NBA thus far. And yet he's getting 20 minutes a night or so when Lonnie Walker oftentimes doesn't even play. And in what world does that compute? Yes, he's young. 20-year-old kid, Lonnie Walker. But he comes in the other night, plays 12 minutes, scores 13 points. A couple nights before, in a 4-minute stretch, he puts up 9 and keeps the Spurs in the game against the Timberwolves. Gotta let the kid play. And yeah, I think there's some good young talent on this Spurs team. But with the rotations Pop's throwing out there right now, they're just not given a chance to succeed. Jakob Poeltl has been arguably the best player on the Spurs thus far, completely unheralded, only playing like 15, maybe 20 minutes a night, but he's been the best defender by far. Protects the rim with a reckless abandon. And Aldridge is playing 30, 35 minutes a night. Look, I get it. Aldridge is a multi-time All-Star, potential future Hall of Famer. But at some point, you got to turn over the keys to the young guns and let them just figure it out. Look, I mean, running a lineup out there, Derek White, DeJounte Murray, Jakob Poeltl, and Lonnie Walker might not scare teams offensively, but defensively, I mean, at least they have a chance to stop somebody. And at 7-14, is it really working? If I'm Pop, you gotta just throw them out there. And look, Pop's been great throughout his career. He's won 5 championships, made the playoffs 22 consecutive seasons, arguably the greatest coach of all time. But to say that he's having a bad season, I think would be an understatement. He's playing guys and he's playing rotations that just don't make sense. I mean, your 2 best defenders have played 10 minutes together the entire season. And yeah, they both play point guard. But you got to see if it'll work. And on the flip side, DeMar DeRozan's been an incredible offensive player for the Spurs this year. But what really bothers me watching him play is his lack of effort on the defensive end. I mean, it used to be a sin. If a guy wasn't trying on defense, Pop would pull him out. And for Lonnie Walker, if he ever has a mental lapse on the defensive side, Pop pulls him out instantly. But for guys like DeMar DeRozan and Rudy Gay and Marco Bellinelli, not closing out on three-pointers has kind of become the new thing. And look, I get it. They've been in the league 10-plus years, all of them. But is that really okay? Should Bob really be holding the older guys to a different standard than the young guys? Look, let the young guys play. They've got some talent. DeJounte Murray made second-team all-defense in his 21-year-old season for a reason. He might not be a refined offensive weapon, but you gotta let the kid play. And as a Spurs fan, I gotta say, this season's been depressing, quite frankly. It's rough to watch. And it's so frustrating because it feels like the keys to success are right there and Pop just won't put them together. The puzzle pieces are there. And yet Pop keeps trying to put the same pieces together and they won't fit. It's like running into a wall and knowing it's never going to break. You got to go around it. You got to figure out a different plan. And 21 games in the season, it feels like I might be a little bit too late for that. Now they're trading DeMar, seeing LA go. That's not what the season was meant to be. They're supposed to be a 51 team. Challenge for the playoffs. add DeJounte Murray to a 48-win team that almost beat the number 2 seed Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs. It took them to 7 games. This was supposed to be a special season, and instead, it's turned into chaos. And as a Spurs fan, I gotta say, first time in my life, well, this is what losing feels like. Tanking, well, I hope not, but it sure looks like that's where we're going. So here's the hope the Spurs can pull it together, and maybe we'll see a little bit of DeJounte and Derek White together. And Pop, I plead, let the young guys play.